Have you ever noticed how some days feel almost weightless? You wake up and your body feels open. Your breath moves easily. Your mind is quiet in a way that feels alert rather than empty. You're not rushing, yet you're on time. You're not trying to focus, yet focus is simply there. Conversations flow. Decisions don't drain you. Even challenges arrive without the usual resistance. It feels as if life is meeting you halfway. And then there are other days where nothing is technically wrong, yet everything feels heavier from the moment you wake up. Your eyes open, but your body doesn't follow. There's a subtle pressure in your chest before you even sit up. Your mind starts talking immediately unfinished tasks, old worries, imagined problems that haven't happened yet. You haven't done anything, and already you feel behind. On those days, effort replaces ease. You push yourself to concentrate, but your attention slips. You try to stay calm, but irritation leaks through your voice. You tell yourself to think positively, yet your body feels tight and restless, as if it doesn't believe the words. The strangest part is this externally. Both days look almost identical. Same bed, same house, same responsibilities, same life. But internally, they are completely different realities. Daniel used to think this contrast was about motivation, or sleep, or discipline. He blamed himself on the heavy days and congratulated himself on the light ones. But over time, something became impossible to ignore. The effortless days didn't come from trying harder, and the heavy days didn't disappear no matter how much he pushed himself to get it together. What he was experiencing wasn't a mood swing, it wasn't laziness, and it wasn't a lack of willpower. It was a shift in state. Because beneath your thoughts, beneath your emotions, beneath the stories you tell yourself, your body is always in a specific physiological and energetic condition. That condition determines whether your system feels open or contracted, coherent or scattered, aligned or resistant. Most people never learn to recognize this. They assume the mind is in charge. They try to fix their experience by changing thoughts, managing emotions, or forcing productivity. But the contrast you feel between ease and struggle doesn't begin in the mind. It begins in the body, in the nervous system, in the subtle rhythms that regulate how safe, supported, or threatened you feel on a moment-to-moment level. And here's the quiet truth. When your system is aligned, life feels responsive. When it's not, everything feels like friction. High vibration isn't something that happens to you on good days, and low vibration isn't a failure on bad ones. They are signals, states your system moves in and out of, often without your conscious awareness. And once you understand what those states are and how they form, the contrast between effort and ease stops being mysterious. It becomes navigable. What most people never realize is that the difference between ease and struggle doesn't begin with effort. It begins with repetition. Not repetition of actions, but repetition of internal states. Daniel started noticing this when he stopped judging his bad days and simply observed them. The heaviness didn't arrive suddenly. It was already there when he woke up. His body felt tense before any thought fully formed. His breath was shallow. His attention fragmented easily. And once that state was active, the rest of the day followed it faithfully. From the outside, it looked like stress. From the inside, it felt like momentum. This is how most people live, not consciously choosing their state, but inheriting it from yesterday. The same thoughts replay. Those thoughts trigger familiar emotions. Those emotions release the same biochemical signals into the body. And the nervous system interprets those signals as instructions about safety or threat. From a scientific perspective, this creates a self-reinforcing loop. From a quantum perspective, it becomes something even more precise. It becomes a frequency pattern. Your body is not neutral. It is constantly emitting information. Every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle muscular contraction contributes to an electromagnetic signature around you. This is not metaphorical language. It is measurable. And that signature doesn't pause when you're distracted or tired. It broadcasts continuously, like a signal that announces your internal condition to the field around you. When Daniel learned this, something clicked. He realized he wasn't starting each day fresh. He was starting each day inside a loop that quietly said, "This is who I am today. This is how the world feels. This is what's available. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The loop doesn't require dramatic stress to stay active. It's sustained by micro moments. The moment you tense your shoulders instead of breathing. The moment you replay an old conversation instead of noticing your body. The moment you rush through the present to get to the next thing. Each of these moments seems insignificant. But together, they maintain a baseline state that becomes your default vibration. This is why willpower rarely works. Willpower tries to override a system that is already broadcasting a signal. You can tell yourself to calm down while your nervous system is still signaling threat. You can think optimistic thoughts while your body remains contracted. But the field doesn't respond to what you intend. It responds to what you are coherently transmitting. Daniel had spent years trying to fix his mindset without realizing that his body was already deciding the tone of the day before his thoughts even caught up. The heaviness wasn't a failure. It was a conditioned state repeating itself. And this is where the shift begins. Because once you understand that your state is looped, you also understand something else. Loops can be interrupted, not through force, but through awareness. The moment you notice your breath is shallow, you introduce choice. The moment you feel your chest tighten and stay with the sensation instead of the story, you weaken the loop. Awareness doesn't fight the pattern, it destabilizes it. This is why high vibration doesn't disappear in one dramatic collapse. It erodes slowly, in small, unnoticed moments of unconsciousness. And for the same reason, it can be rebuilt gently, through small moments of presence, not by trying to feel better, but by becoming more honest with what your system is actually doing. When Daniel stopped trying to correct his experience and started observing it, he noticed something subtle but powerful. The days that felt lighter didn't begin with better thoughts. They began with a different bodily rhythm, slower breathing, softer attention, less internal resistance. His mind followed his body, not the other way around. This is the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is automatic. It belongs to the loop. Response requires space, and space only appears when your system feels safe enough to pause. Most people assume safety is created by external conditions, less work, fewer problems, more certainty. But biologically, safety is an internal signal. When your nervous system senses coherence, it allows clarity. When it senses incoherence, it narrows perception and prepares for survival. So the question stops being, how do I stay high vibration all day, and becomes, what am I repeating without noticing? Because what you repeat becomes your signal, and what you signal becomes the lens through which reality meets you. In the next part, we'll go deeper into what coherence actually is, why it has nothing to do with forcing positive emotions, and how the heart plays a far greater role in your vibrational state than you've ever been taught. For a long time, Daniel believed that high vibration meant feeling good, calm, motivated, inspired. So when those feelings faded, he assumed something was wrong. He tried to bring them back the only way he knew how, by thinking differently. Positive reframes, mental discipline, telling himself to stay in a good state. But the harder he tried to hold a feeling, the more fragile it became. What Daniel didn't understand yet was this: feelings fluctuate by nature. They are weather, not climate. And high vibration is not an emotional peak you maintain. It is a state of coherence beneath emotion, a condition where your internal systems are synchronized rather than competing with each other. Coherence means alignment, not alignment of beliefs, but alignment of physiology. When you're breathing, heart rhythm, nervous system, and attention are working together. Your system generates a stable, organized signal. When they are out of sync, your system produces noise. This is why trying to stay positive often backfires. You can think optimistic thoughts while your body is still contracted. You can say affirmations while your breath is shallow and your chest is tight. From the outside, it looks like effort. From the inside, it creates friction. And friction is the opposite of coherence. Science gives us a clear window into this. Researchers studying heart rate variability have found that the heart is not just a pump, it is a powerful regulator. The electromagnetic field generated by the heart is significantly stronger than that of the brain, and it carries information about your internal state throughout your entire body. When you are stressed, frustrated, or anxious, your heart rhythm becomes irregular and jagged. The signals sent to your brain reflect instability. Your nervous system shifts into protection mode. Perception narrows. Creativity drops. Reaction increases. But when your heart rhythm becomes smooth and synchronized with your breathing, something very different happens. The signals sent to the brain indicate safety. The nervous system relaxes. Cognitive clarity improves. Your entire system moves into a state of efficient communication. This is coherence. Notice what's missing from that description. There is no requirement to feel happy. No need to suppress discomfort, no demand for constant positivity. Coherence is neutral, grounded, and stable. From this state, elevated emotions like appreciation, calm, and openness arise naturally, not because you force them, but because your system is no longer in internal conflict. This was a turning point for Daniel. He stopped asking, "How do I feel right now?" and started asking, "Is my system aligned?" On days when his vibration felt low, he noticed his body first, his shoulders lifted, his breath shortened, his attention scattered. Nothing needed to be fixed. Something needed to be synchronized. And here's where the misunderstanding clears. High vibration does not mean you never feel stress. It means stress does not hijack your system. It passes through without becoming your identity. You notice it. You breathe. You remain present. And your signal stays coherent. From a quantum perspective, this matters deeply. The quantum field does not respond to intention alone. It responds to coherence. A scattered system sends a scattered signal. A coherent system sends a clear one. When your internal state is aligned, probabilities organize differently, not magically, but logically. You notice opportunities sooner. You respond instead of react. You make choices from clarity rather than urgency. Daniel realized that his good days had always been coherent days. not because life was easier, but because his system was regulated. And his bad days weren't failures. They were incoherent states repeating themselves. Once he understood this, the pressure disappeared. He no longer tried to maintain a feeling. He learned to restore alignment, and alignment, once restored, did the rest. This is the quiet power of coherence. It doesn't demand perfection. It rewards awareness. Each time you notice tension and breathe instead of tightening, you restore a little order. Each time you pause instead of react, you bring your system back into sync. High vibration is not something you chase. It's something that emerges when you stop fighting yourself. In the next part, we'll explore how this coherent state interacts with reality itself, how your internal alignment influences which possibilities solidify into experience, and why your state, not your thoughts, is what truly collapses potential into form. Once coherence becomes familiar inside your body, the question naturally changes from "how do I feel?" to what kind of observer am I being? Once Daniel understood coherence, a deeper question surfaced. If alignment changes how he feels and responds, does it also change what happens? For years, he had heard phrases like "you create your reality" and dismissed them as motivational language. But what he was experiencing didn't feel abstract. It felt mechanical, predictable, almost precise. This is where quantum physics quietly enters the conversation. In quantum mechanics, reality does not exist as a single fixed outcome until it is observed. Until then, it exists as a range of probabilities. This principle is known as the collapse of the wave function. Observation doesn't mean simply looking at something. It means interaction, measurement, engagement. And that interaction is never neutral. What most people don't realize is that observation is not just a mental act. It is a full system event. Your nervous system, emotional state, and physiology are all part of how you observe reality. When your system is incoherent, your observation is scattered. When your system is coherent, your observation becomes focused and stable. Daniel began to notice this in small ways. On days when he felt regulated and centered, he seemed to notice opportunities sooner. Conversations unfolded with less resistance. He wasn't forcing outcomes. He was simply present enough to respond to what was already there. On incoherent days, the same opportunities passed unnoticed. The same conversations felt tense. The difference wasn't the world. It was the state through which he was engaging it. Neuroscience helps explain why this happens. Your brain does not passively receive reality. It predicts it. Based on past experience, emotional tone, and bodily signals. Your brain constructs a model of what it expects to encounter. When your nervous system is stressed, this model becomes narrow and defensive. You see fewer options. You interpret ambiguity as threat. When your system is coherent, perception widens. You become more flexible, more creative, more receptive. From a quantum perspective, this matters because perception influences probability. A scattered observer collapses scattered outcomes. A coherent observer collapses coherent ones. Not because the universe is rewarding you, but because your state determines which signals you amplify and which you ignore. This is why thoughts alone are not enough. You can think about abundance while your body is signaling scarcity. You can visualize success while your nervous system is braced for failure. In those moments, your observation is conflicted. The signal you send into the field is mixed, and mixed signals produce inconsistent results. Daniel stopped asking himself what he wanted and started paying attention to how he was showing up. Was his body tense or open? Was his breath rushed or steady? Was his attention fragmented or present? These were not spiritual questions. They were practical ones, because they told him what kind of observer he was being in that moment. This is also why the beginning of the day matters so much. In the first moments after waking, your brain transitions from slower theta waves into more alert beta waves. During this window, your subconscious is still receptive, and your nervous system has not yet locked into habitual stress patterns. Whatever state you establish here tends to become the baseline from which you observe the rest of the day. Daniel changed one thing. Before checking his phone, before engaging with the world, he spent a few minutes regulating his breath and placing attention on his heart. Not to feel good, but to synchronize his system. This small act didn't make his days perfect. It made them coherent. And coherence changed how reality met him. As the day unfolded, he noticed moments where his state began to slip. A critical email, a rushed meeting. Instead of pushing through, he paused. One slow breath, shoulders softening, attention returning to the body. These micro resets were not about calming down. They were about restoring clarity. Each pause brought his system back into alignment, allowing him to respond rather than react. This is how coherence becomes practical. Not through long rituals or constant effort, but through the ability to recalibrate in real time. Each recalibration changes the quality of your observation, and each observation subtly shifts which possibilities solidify into experience. You are not choosing reality with your thoughts. You are choosing it with your state. When your system is aligned, the field responds with order. When it is scattered, the field reflects that too. There is no judgment in this process, only feedback. In the final part, we'll bring everything together. How coherence becomes your new baseline. How you stop trying to stay high and instead learn to return. And why high vibration, once embodied, no longer feels like something you manage, but something you live from. At some point, Daniel stopped asking whether he was doing it right. He noticed something quieter happening instead. The effort to stay high began to fall away. Not because life became easier, but because he no longer treated alignment as something fragile he had to protect. It became something familiar, something he could return to. There were still difficult days, still moments of tension, still uncertainty. But those experiences no longer defined his internal state. They moved through him rather than taking over. And that was the real shift. High vibration, he realized, was never about staying elevated. It was about remembering how to come back. Back to the body, back to the breath, back to the steady rhythm beneath thought. Most people believe that inner balance is something you either have or don't have. That if you lose it, you've failed. But coherence doesn't work that way. Coherence is not a static achievement. It's a dynamic relationship, one you renew moment by moment. The moment you notice yourself rushing, you have a choice. The moment you feel tension rise, you have a choice. The moment your attention scatters, you have a choice. Not to fix, not to judge, but to return. This is what transforms high vibration from an idea into a lived reality. You stop trying to control your experience and start regulating your state. And regulation is not force. It's responsiveness. It's listening to what your system is doing and meeting it with awareness. Over time, this changes your baseline. The nervous system learns that coherence is safe. The body learns that it doesn't need to stay braced. The mind learns that clarity doesn't come from pushing, but from presence. And as that baseline stabilizes, something else happens quietly in the background. Life begins to respond differently, not because you are manifesting harder, not because you are thinking better thoughts, but because you are no longer broadcasting noise. When your signal becomes steady, what doesn't resonate with it naturally falls away. What aligns with it becomes easier to recognize. Opportunities don't need to be chased, they are noticed. Decisions don't feel urgent, they feel clear. Relationships shift, not through effort, but through coherence. This is what it means to become the signal. You are no longer trying to reach a higher state. You are inhabiting one. And from here, the question changes again. It's no longer, how do I keep my vibration high? It becomes, how honestly am I listening to myself right now? Because the field is always responding, not to your words, not to your intentions, but to your state. If you take nothing else from this experience, let it be this. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be calm all the time. You do not need to eliminate discomfort to live in coherence. You only need to notice when you've drifted and return. Return to your breath. Return to your body. Return to the quiet intelligence beneath effort. That return is the practice. That return is the power. And over time, that return becomes who you are. High vibration is not something you achieve and maintain. It is something you remember again and again. And the more you remember, the less you need to try. You are not separate from the field. You are not reacting to life from the outside. You are participating in it as the signal itself. Stay with that. Return to it often. And let the rest organize around you.